Hello folks, this is Alex Innecco. Today's class is on Mozart versus Salieri. Okay? We are going to compare and contrast their music. Okay? Remember that all of our programming can be found at ECAI.com.br. BR stands for Brazil. And all of our programming can be found there. Okay, the virtual programming and the actual programming once the quarantine is over. Okay? So today we talk about Mozart versus Salieri. And they are both classical composers from the classical period. So if you see here, the classical period starts in 1750 and ends in 1810, 1750 to 1810. 1750 is the death of Johann Sebastian Bach, and 1810 is more or less 20 years after the beginning of the French Revolution. Okay, so that is the backdrop, the historic backdrop to Mozart and Salieri. Okay. First, these are our two composers of today. Antonio Salieri, 1750-1825, realized that he lived for 75 years, which in those times is a long time, okay? Today, 75 is just a kid, but those times he was, so realized that Mozart lived for 36 years, 1756 to 1791. So Salieri is born in 1750, the year of the death of Bach, 20 years before Beethoven, and he dies in 1825. Beethoven dies in 1827. So Salieri lives, he's born before Mozart and dies at the same, very close to Beethoven. So it's a long life, especially if we consider the classical and romantic periods. It's interesting to compare that because Salieri is a classical composer and Beethoven is born a class, and he starts composing in the classical tradition and he ends in the romantic tradition. So this is very interesting. Salieri, no, he's always a classical composer. This is part of the problem with Salieri, we'll see. Okay? Let's talk a little bit about Salieri, about his life. He wrote especially operas. Okay, he was the big fish in I was gonna say in a small pond, but Vienna was not a small pond. So he was the big fish in the big pond. Salieri was a great opera composer. He was known for being an opera composer, but can you name an opera by Salieri today? Probably not. That is one of the problems. He was famous while alive and not after death. This is part of our meditation. Would you prefer to be famous in life or death? Interesting, huh? The story about Salieri and Mozart, this feud between Salieri and Mozart, starts actually with, in the 20th century with this movie, Amadeus. And which is based on a play called Amadeus. The movie is by Milos Forman, the play is by Peter Schaeffer. And it's actually an essay on envy, okay? And can you blame Salieri for being envious? I mean, who is not envious? That's the whole point. I am, okay? When I look at Gustavo Dudamel, for example, you know, the guy half my age and 10 times more hair than me and incredibly talented. I mean, come on. You know, I can't just pretend like I'm not envious. Okay, I'm jealous. I want to have that. Okay? Well, no. But I'm not going to kill him. But the movie suggests that Salieri killed or ordered to have Mozart killed. This is not true. If someone had to envy someone in that situation. Mozart had to be jealous of Salieri's position. Salieri was the one who had the money. Salieri was the one who was famous, okay? And Mozart actually had some letter exchange between him and his father, and where he complains that Salieri didn't give him access to the princes and princesses in lectures, music lectures. So Salieri did make Mozart's life a little complicated in the court. That's interesting. Mozart and Salieri worked in the same court, the court of Joseph II of Austria. So they composed for the same orchestra, but Salieri had a higher post than Mozart's, okay? So, speaking about Salieri, he composed especially operas. He was born in the Republic of Venice, okay? Today, that's Italy, of course, but the Republic of Venice was a city-state that started in the north of Italy, where it stays today, of course, and then it went on the other side to the Adriatic Sea, where later on was Yugoslavia, today's Montenegro, Serbia, etc. And that was the Republic of Venice. Interesting, huh? Very interesting. Salieri lost his parents when he was a kid, and in the movie there's a very funny scene where he's very happy. He prays to God, and his father chokes on a chicken bone and dies, and Salieri thanks God for that. It's obviously an exaggeration, or is it? And but that did happen. I don't know about the choking with the chicken bone, but it did happen that Salieri was an orphan, child orphan. And he moved to Vienna, from Venice to Vienna, where he had his music education. He worked in the court of Joseph II of Austria, and he was the director of Italian opera in Vienna, okay? You say, how so? Remember that discussion in the movie about whether operas should be in Italian or German? There was a real thing. Italian was the language for opera. Okay, there was, if you went to Paris, there was this big discussion about French opera and Italian opera. But here in Vienna, Italian was the language for opera. And remember that French was not welcome in Vienna, of course. So later on, Salieri became the Kapellmeister to the king's church, okay, to the church where the king went for mass every day or once a week, I'm not sure. But that was a big deal. So Salieri had the opera and had the church, okay? So that was a big deal. Salieri was the guy, okay? Now, how did Salieri's music sound like? Listen to this. I can't play much. The other live we had, Facebook crashed it because I played too much music. It happens. So this is the Overture to Falstaff, which is an opera based on The Merry Wives of Windsor by Shakespeare, and which is a play that has been set to music many times. The last one that I know by Verdi, Falstaff, having the same title. So this is a little bit of Salieri's music, and it does sound like Mozart's music. Realize that they were writing for the same orchestra, literally, okay? The King's Orchestra in the theater, the Royal Theater. So this is La Fiera di Venezia, the Venice Fair, and this is Cecilia Bartoli, one of my favorite singers. And let me find a spot here for you to hear a little bit. Okay. Give me just a second here. etc. If you want to hear the whole aria, you can go to Spotify. I'm not sure how you pronounce this in English. We say Spotify in Brazil. So if you go to Spotify, ECAI, find ECAI at Spotify, and there's a list with all the music in this lecture, okay? Everything is there. Go to ECAI, Mozart versus Salieri is there, Spotify, okay? I'm great, okay? I just said it there. It's free. Just go there now, okay? It's gorgeous, gorgeous music. This is a concerto for flute and oboe by Salieri. It sounds very much like Mozart, okay? It's the style, it's the time, it's the period, okay? The music of the period. Concerto for piano and orchestra. This piece is also there at Spotify, ECAI. Now, the piece that I really wanted to hear by Salieri is called 26 Variations on La Follia di Spagna. La Follia di Spagna is a piece that was written much before. Actually, it's not 100% sure, we're not 100% sure where it came from, but it's from Renaissance, between the Renaissance and the Baroque. It's been set to variations many times. It's been rearranged, La Follia di Spagna. And in this piece, Salieri does many variations on the theme La Follia di Spagna. And I find it gorgeous. This piece is there on Spotify. Listen to this. So you have this theme, pa pi pa ra pa pi pam pa ra pi pa pa ri ri la ri ri ri. And this theme is re-shown, I don't know how to say this, is shown again and with different orchestration. That's what variation is. One of the possibilities is changing the orchestration. So you hear the same music, pam pa pa di da ram, pam pam pa da ram, pi pa pa da da ram, pam pam pa da, with different orchestration. For example, it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. Later on in the piece. What is really interesting here is that Salieri starts showing a much more romantic approach, okay? Even though he was always a classical composer. But Beethoven studied with Salieri, Schubert studied with Salieri, so it's very interesting, okay, that you hear some romantic sounds here, different sounds in the orchestra, okay? This piece is really gorgeous. It's almost 20 minutes long. It's really worth hearing the whole thing. Now, Salieri, when I say he's a classical composer, he follows the rules, just like Haydn, Joseph Haydn, the other great classical composer, also Austrian, also is in Mozart from Austria, Haydn from Austria, and Salieri from Italy, but you know, they all thrived in Vienna. Now, what happens here is the third movement. We're going to hear a little bit of the third movement of Salieri's symphony. And let me say this. The third movement of classical symphonies is usually a minuet. Let me say it again. The third movement of classical symphonies is usually a minuet, okay? We have generally 4 movements in classical symphonies. What's classical? Classical from the classical period. Remember that I showed you, if you're arriving now, the classical period is 1750, 1810, okay? The symphonies in this time, in this period, they had usually 4 movements. The first one is fast, the second one is slow and meditative. The third one is a dance movement, usually a minuet. It's not for you to dance, it's stylized dancing, okay? And it's a minuet. The fourth movement is a quick movement, fast. What is a minuet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's similar to a waltz, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, except that the waltz had not been invented by then. Okay? The waltz is a 19th century phenomenon. But we hear in the third movements of these classical symphonies, we most of the times hear this minuet, which is the case here with the Symphony in D by Salieri. Third movement. Let me say it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pam, param, pam, 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 pam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Minuet. Let's hear it again. Etc. I can't play much. Now, it is similar to what Haydn did in his symphonies, okay? So the third movement of a Haydn symphony. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The third movement of another Haydn symphony. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, do they lack originality? No, that was the norm. If you want to hear a little bit more about this subject, go to the classical period. We have a lecture on the classical period there on YouTube, on ECAI, and you can hear all about this, okay? But that was the norm, okay? Now, moving to Mozart. When Mozart writes a minuet on his third movement, listen to Symphony number 33 by Mozart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Very similar, okay? Very similar to what Haydn and Salieri were doing. But listen to this. The minuet of Symphony number 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. It is a minuet, but it has a different flavor to it, a different flair, okay? That's what Mozart is about. He follows the rules, but he's very original. Listen to this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in his Symphony number 41, look what he does. What does he do? 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, original, different, following the rules, but being original. Now, with Mozart, especially toward the end of his life, his symphonies are remarkable. Number 40. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. It's hard following all the rules to have something remarkably different and original. Symphony number 25. to Spotify and hear the whole thing, okay? His Clarinet Concerto, because that's what is really annoying about Mozart. He can write operas, he can write concertos, he can write chamber music, he can write symphonies, and everything is good, okay? Salieri specialized in opera. Mozart, no. Everything is good. Everything he writes is good. This is very annoying. Very annoying. It's irritating for us mediocre people, okay? The Clarinet Concerto. Gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Okay, go listen to the whole thing. Chamber music, a string quartet. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. Eine kleine Nachtmusik. Small musical joke or something like that. Okay? In opera, everybody knows this, don't you? Listen to this. Etc. because of Facebook, because it will cut my live, okay? The Queen of the Night in the Magic Flute, okay? Don Giovanni. There we'll give hands to each other, and there you tell me yes. Don Giovanni is trying to persuade the maid to go to bed with him. Not pretty, because the maid is going to get married the following day, but Don Giovanni wants to cuddle with her the night before, just for the heck of it. Okay, that's what the opera is about, Don Juan, and it's very aggressive. But what is important for us here is that Don Giovanni is using a peasant melody. He uses a sort of the type of music that a peasant would like to hear. La di da da la la da, la di da da la la. It's very simple because Zerlina, the maid, is simple. So he doesn't sing sophisticated music because she wouldn't understand. That is Mozart's genius, okay? When you hear the Countess in The Marriage of Figaro, another opera, she has great character, and you hear it in her music. Observe. Where are those days? Where are those days when the Count used to like me? That's what she's saying. And she's hurt. Her character shows through the music. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Okay? To finish this, there's a kind of a comparison between Mozart's and Salieri's Requiem. Okay, the Requiem is a mass for the dead, and it's a piece that Salieri did not commission to Mozart. That's not true. That's part of the plot of the movie, but Mozart did leave it unfinished. And of the movements that Mozart finished, we have the Kyrie, the Introitus, which is very intense. That is something very, very incredible, because it's almost like if it's a romantic piece. Listen to this. It's very intense. It's almost as if Mozart was trying his hand on the romantic period. Is that, can you imagine if Mozart had lived 20, 30 more years? It's amazing. It's really amazing. Now, Salieri's Requiem. It's beautiful. I invite you to hear the whole thing in our Spotify list, but it's not as intense. It's beautiful. Listen to it. But what is, the Salieri's Dies Irae, the Day of Wrath, one of the famous movements in the Requiems. Salieri. The Day of Wrath. Salieri uses the unison in the choir to give this strength. The Dies Irae is the day of wrath, when God is going to judge and separate the good from the evil, okay? And the good ones will go to heaven and the evil ones, oh my God. But you compare with this. So it's impossible to compare. And that is the whole point of today's lecture, okay? Had Mozart not existed, Salieri would have been considered the greatest composer of the classical period, probably. We're not sure. Probably him, Haydn. But Mozart did exist. So you compare, anything compared to Mozart is just not as good. It's as if, a runner, okay, the 100-meter dash, I run the 100-meter dash very fast, I'm the fastest, except that I was born in the same time of Usain Bolt. Oh, well, too bad, because you were born in the time of the fastest man on earth, ever. So, not very lucky. And that's the whole point, okay? That's the point of today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember that you have two more resources about the classical period. You can listen to our lecture. You can watch our lecture on the classical period here on YouTube, and you can go to Spotify and hear this list. There's 2 hours.